Hi everyone, my name is Animo. Today we're going to be talking about block periodization. So block periodization is a form of periodization that allows an athlete to focus on one aspect of training at a time. So strength or power or speed or agility, whatever it is, it allows your athlete to really hone in and focus on that one thing rather than having to focus on all of it at one time. This is really useful in the sense of when your athlete is starting to get to a stage where they're starting to peak. So this will enable you to allow them to focus on one thing and continue to grow. So the most important part of block periodization is going to be the concentration of the training workloads. This is where you're going to find the most production of sufficient stimuli, and you're going to see the more remarkable gains within the tissue. So you're going to have three phases of this periodization model. So the first is going to be the accumulation phase. This is where the athlete should accumulate the basic motor and technical abilities for potential use. The second one is going to be the transformation phase. This is where athletes should transmute their potential to event-specific preparedness. And then finally, your realization phase. This is where the athlete should realize the preparedness and readiness for competition and react in reaching the planned result. So where they're going to end up. So some different characteristics that you're going to look for within this. So for the motor and technical abilities during the accumulation phase, this is going to be their basic abilities, like I said previously. So aerobic endurance, basic organization, and overall general strength. For this, the recovery periods are going to be relatively important for this, honestly, because you want to allow the muscles time to rest in between so that they don't become adapted too quickly. So the training load is going to be average to high volume, but a lower intensity. So you're going to have stronger, higher weights, more strength, and obviously a higher percentage of the 1 rep max, but you're going to give them bigger rest periods in between. And then finally, the testing. So for testing this, is going to be discipline specific. So, what are you really focusing on? Your strength aspects, your power. What are you really trying to gain from it? Moving along into the second phase is going to be the transformation phase. So this is sport specific ability. So your strength, endurance, power when it's needed, special endurance, so like for your cross country runners or your cross country skiers, things like that, this is going to be really beneficial for them. And then overall, your anaerobic threshold, so prolonging it and really working on increasing that VO2 max and really increasing the amount that you're able to go. So during this, recovery is going to be even more important than it was in the last one, so you're really going to need to allow them full time for recovery before they do another session. Otherwise, the fatigue is going to accumulate and it's going to cause a inverse effect on what you're trying to gain. So the training load with this is going to be high training load, but a reduced volume, but we are going to increase the intensity. So, we're really going to work on high volumes of training, or high intensity. So this is where your HIIT workouts are going to be really beneficial. Anything that gets the heart rate up and in target zones of higher quantity as well is really going to be beneficial here. But we want to make sure again that we're giving them adequate time to rest so that they don't get fatigued. Okay, on to the realization phase. So this is where you're going to work on modeled performance, speed, tactics, and strategies within the sport and how they can use the things that you've been working on for weeks in their sport aspect. And then also mental preparedness. So this is going to be, with the recovery, there's going to be a decrease in training mode to ensure that you get the full recovery before the event, obviously, because this whole thing that you're doing is training for a specific event. So you want to make sure, obviously, before competition day, you're rested and ready to go. So with the training load here, you're going to have a low to average training load and low volume, but you're going to have really high intensity. So this is going to be where the HIIT workouts and the cardio workouts are going to be very, very, very important. You want to make sure that heart rate is still getting up, make sure we're still working out and working tough and, working on specific things, but we want to also, let our muscles relax and start focusing on endurance aspects of things, and this is where the VO2 gains really come into play. All right. So as again, like I said, this is kind of it's more beneficial for sports to focus on or have one main event that they're working towards, and can allow the athletes some time in between to rest and really focus on different aspects rather than having to cram it all into like 1 week type thing. So this is ideal for an Olympic athlete or a athlete who, like a cross country skier or someone like that, who has plenty of time to prepare for the next event. Trying to fit all this on top of a full schedule is obviously not going to be what you want to do. It does become very difficult to see all the gains that can be possible. Another thing that is really important to mention is the peak period with this. So with being that you're focusing on one thing, once you get the adaptations that you're looking for, because you focus on it for such a long period of time, you are going to have an extended peak period, which is going to be about 3 weeks. So if you're able to plan properly and can plan that peak period to be around your competition period, then obviously you're going to perform the best. So I think that is one big thing that block periodization has over other types of training. It is very important to also to remember that at the end of the realization phase, there is some type of competition, and you want to make sure that you plan that out, like I just said, to be the most beneficial. Some downsides to this are that, like I said, you can't really have competitions during it, because if you're really working on a power phase, your body's going to be fatigued, the athlete's going to be fatigued, and it's really going to really take a lot out of the athlete. But on the other side of that, this does benefit the athletes in some ways, because the realization period does allow the athlete some time to rest, and it does have a drop off in requirement, and you do have that realization period with a low load, low intensity workout sessions, so that does enable the athlete some rest periods. So I feel like this option does do well in recovery management. I think that using this with your baseball, softball athletes is not going to be really beneficial, just because there's so many different competitions within one short time period that trying to impose this during a season or anything like that is just going to leave the athlete absolutely drained. Now, this, when compared beside a traditional model, you do see more gains with block periodization than you do with traditional model, because you're focusing solely on one aspect of training. So obviously you're focusing solely on one aspect of training throughout that time period, and you're testing for that. When you put it side by side versus a traditional model, you are going to see more gains. So I think it's really just important what aspects your sport requires and what you're going to find the most benefit from. So for the football players, when you're going into season and stuff like that, power is going to be important, especially for your linemen, where you're moving back to your linebackers and your corners, versatility and being able to move, be agile, that's going to be more important. So that might be something that you can introduce into your realization phase, where you're going to want your D linemen and your O line to really be tough and be strong and have a lot of power. So I think just really focusing in on where you want to use it and being able to plan accordingly with your blocks during season. If you're able to do that, then obviously block periodization is a great way to go, especially with the ability to give your athletes some downtime and the extended peak period. So thank you. If you have any questions, thanks.